Hi folks, welcome back to the B29 restoration project. As you can see, the B29 fuselage is getting all of the vinyl metalized panels put on. Everything from basically the rear half of the wing to the tail is all done. I came from about, pretty much 3/4 of the fuselage is done. It starts just at the bottom side, wraps all the way to the top. It's about the same point on the other side. The top wing panel here in the center is all painted silver, just like full scales would be for corrosion protection. Trailing edge is bare metal, and a portion of the leading edge is bare metal. The cells will have bare metal from about here up. I'm gonna do those later on after I get the cowls and everything done. Now we're working on the nose section of the fuselage. See, we're about probably about a third of the way done, maybe halfway, somewhere around there. So I'm working on making a bunch of those panels. You can see I've got a couple here, got a few more down there, and that will be all of the panels for this section here. And then what'll be left to be doing the nose with its compound curves, and then figuring out how exactly to go around all of this framework. Think about that when we get there. Excuse me. The stuff I am using is from Amazon. So 12-inch by 15-foot roll of chrome vinyl. The way it comes out of the box is basically this. You see it's got a really nice reflection to it. I bought 2 or 3 different types and brands, and this one was honestly the best stuff. It's thicker compared to the other couple of brands. Oracal was one brand I bought. It was very, very thin. It probably would have stretched around compound curves a lot better, but it wasn't chrome like this. Like, you could not see, it had a reflection, but it was very frosted kind of looking. It was very blurry. And then when you tried to scuff it to give it like a metalized look with a grain, you could see the imprint of the adhesive on the backside of it after you scuffed it. It was just always there, so I did not use that stuff. Like I said, this stuff is a little bit thicker than that one, and then one other brand, I can't remember what name that one was from, but this is HTV Front or something like that. Yeah, HTV Ront, as in Hotel Tango Victor Romeo Oscar November Tango. Again, it's just a chrome vinyl. Works really, really well. It's like $15 a roll. So far on the B29, I think I'm on 5 rolls, and I bought 2 extra rolls just to make sure I had enough to do the outboard wing panel, leading and trailing edges, and then all of the nacelles and the cowls. So anyways, what I'm doing now is I'm getting the last of the one fuselage section done and ready to apply. You can see here we have a piece of vinyl. This is the unscuffed chrome here, and then the scuffed piece on the top. What I have for tools to do that is just a 3M Scotch-Brite maroon scuff pad. This is one pad cut in half. I bought a box roll of them, and then I have this little sanding block which has got Velcro. This is from Diablo, which comes from Home Depot. It's designed for their drywall sanding nets things, but it works great for holding these little 3M Scotch-Brite pads as well on it. Holds it well enough to where you can do fairly large areas. I tried doing it by hand, and you were just always wearing down certain little areas of the Scotch-Brite pad, so for $6 or $7 for that sanding block, it works really well. To scuff it, literally you just hold the vinyl, put some pressure on the block and the pad, and just scuff it in the direction that you want to go. Finish up this little area here towards the edges of the panel. You don't really get as good of a scuff, so you kind of have to come in here and do little short strokes on it just to get rid of the sheen from around the edges. And then what happens, since you started since you didn't start from the center, you end up with a little starting scuff. So then same thing, you just go a long ways to overlap those and make them blend in. Then here in the chrome, you'll see the first scuff. Doesn't do a whole lot. Just takes a little bit of time moving this 3M, the Scotch-Brite pad around. You want to make sure that you stay fairly parallel with the length of this thing, depending on how you're doing it. One thing I do on the airplane is I go around with a pencil and I mark each of the panels on the orientation that I want the grain. Because if you put them all the same orientation, you don't get the look of different hues of the metal panel, so they all just kind of blend into this one. These scuff pads don't last very long. You get about 2 sheets this size out of one scuff pad, and then it just kind of wears out. But again, you're just sitting here scuffing it until you get the look you want. A couple of these rolls probably gonna be very, very hard to see. I'll do my best to get in here. You can kind of see a little bit of like little circles in it. So a couple of them have had those circles, a couple have not. I'm guessing it's something to do with the adhesive or whatever that they use. But I've been taking the pad to it, so those little dots or those circles of disappear, and pretty much call that good for scuffing up the sheet. Another little tip: if you've got multiple pieces that are going to be like scuffed lengthwise like this one is, keep the sheet in one piece before you cut out the individual pieces. Just makes things a little bit easier initially, and then if you decide that you want to scuff one a little bit more than the rest, you can do that after you cut it out or cut it down to the proper size. I try and leave about an inch lengthwise at least. If it's got a lot of shape to it, I'll leave 2 or 3 inches lengthwise of excess. And then widthwise, same thing, try and leave about an inch or so, just to give you a place for your fingers to rest and grab it without messing up the adhesive. And also keep them separated, so when I go to grab this one I need, I can easily just look at it and see. This particular one, as I was scuffing it on an angle, you can see it's got a couple little parts where it creased. So far I found that doesn't really matter. They work out fairly easily as you work them onto the surface of the airplane. Over here in the fuselage, you can see a whole lot of panel lines. I got all those marked out. There's a lot of head scratching with that, especially once you start getting up here at the front. You start looking at little bitty 3 views and lines start kind of blurring into all of one big blob. So sometimes it helps to take a step back and come back later. As far as tools go, really you don't need a whole lot. A nice sharp X-Acto knife. This is what I call a hard card. It's for doing like window tint, and then it has a felt cover that gets stuck to the side so you don't scratch it. Need one of those. I like to use this 1/4 inch wide vinyl masking tape for outlining stuff. Makes it come out. It makes the edges come out a lot. Well, it makes it where you can see the outline of the panel line. We'll get to more of that. And then you notice, like I said, the vinyl, and then a pair of scissors. So I'm gonna skip doing this very top panel up here just because this antenna's in the way and it's gonna be a bit of a headache. But what I typically do once I decide where I want to start panel line or panel wise is I know I'm gonna put a panel here down. Make sure you guys are in view. I'm a little off, but hey. So I know I'm gonna put the cut edge from the panel along this panel line, because that's going to be nice straight. This edge already has a piece of tape over it to give us a nice defined edge. This side does not. Since our vinyl is not transparent, we're not going to be able to see it. So that's when I'll run this transparent, or this vinyl masking tape along this panel line. That way we can use our hard card to give us a nice little, and basically push the vinyl into the corner of the fuselage surface and the masking tape, and that will give us a nice little ridge to use as a cutting guide. So now we've got that. You can see possibly I've got things written like a V, an H, an A, another V. When I'm laying out these panels, I don't want the same, well, I try and make it to where two grain orientations, that's what all the scuffing does. The scuffing gives you the grain, but I try and set it up to where the grain orientation here does not touch the same, doesn't touch the same grain orientation anywhere else. So V is for vertical, H is horizontal or lengthwise of the fuselage, and then A is at an angle. Typically you would expect on a long panel that the grain would always be oriented lengthwise. I did that on a couple pieces on the vertical tail, and once you start putting the same grain orientation, it all looks the same. Compared to with them kind of angled and stuff, it makes the metal look like they're different colors, even though ideally, realistically, they're probably all the same shade or color. I guess shade's probably a better term, but it makes it look like there's different types of metal on the airplane. So here we've got a vertical panel. I'm just gonna kind of test it. This is kind of a pain to do by yourself, but it's worthwhile. It's not terrible. It's just a little bit of a headache. So I also try and keep a just a little bit of a damp rag floating around, especially after everything's been sitting in the basement for overnight or for a couple hours. Just keep a little paper towel with a little bit of water on it. That way you can just wipe down the surface if any dust has fallen down. Now we can pull the backing off. I'm going to stick one corner of the vinyl here where I want it on that end. This stuff is a lot more forgiving than something like a metalized tape. With the metalized tape, in my experience, once it sticks, it's stuck, and if you gotta take it off, you pretty much ruin it in the process. This stuff is nowhere near as finicky as some of that stuff can be. It's actually been a joy to work with, to where doing like a full day doesn't drive you nuts, and you can get a good amount of progress without feeling like you're gonna make yourself go insane. So then I'm just kind of picking up on the end down here, using the felt end of the hard card to push the vinyl down onto the surface. Again, you notice I started in the middle, worked my way to one end, came back to the middle, worked my way back to the other end, and then just kind of started going end to end from that point on. Now as I get down to where the tape is, you can see how the tape leaves an edge. Then we're going to take this corner of the hard card here, not this corner, we're going to take the hard corner without the felt, and I'm just going to run it right there in that seam of the tape and the part of the fuselage surface. And what this does is it gives us a nice sharp edge that we can use our X-Acto knife to ride down inside of to cut the vinyl. basically where the corner is, I'm just running the knife just kind of right down the center of it. And then where the nose is, where the split for the nose is, on it, the panel line is not exactly where it should be. The panel line should be about another 1.5 inches or so forward. But I'm gonna just kind of cheat and make use of the split line between the removable nose and the fuselage as the panel line. Said it's not the scale location, but it'll work, and it kind of helps hide that seam. And you see it once you do all that, the vinyl really just peels off the surface really nicely. You're gonna see I'm gonna take the hard card and just push on it, and then same thing, I'm gonna use an edge of the hard card here to go right down the edge of the where we just trimmed to help push it a little bit. And that is essentially one panel here on the fuselage. So next step, in order to do the next one, that piece of tape I put down, I'm just going to take it off. Oops. Going to transfer it down to the next line. If I will stop dropping it, making sure that it's lined up on either end where the panel line should be. This is kind of like the panel line tape. Stick it a couple of places and then come down and just run your finger down it to get it stuck everywhere. And then we'll come find our next one. This piece is angled, so I'm going to find our angled part. We're going to put it up here, make sure it's going to fit where it needs to be, which it does. You can see our tape wasn't completely straight here, so I'll show you how to go about fixing that. Take the vinyl or the felt side of the hard card along that edge to make sure it's stuck really well. And this is where the vinyl is a lot nicer to deal with than the metalized tape. My hand's probably going to be in your way, but the nice thing about the vinyl is you can twist it and curve it to where a panel line that has a little bit of a gap between it, like on this one did, you can make the next panel curve or flex a little bit to leave a nice consistent gap between them. Okay, there's the new battery. So now I'm just gonna rinse and repeat the whole process. That's really the reason why a lot of the videos we haven't been doing lately, because it's just a lot of rinse and repeat. So I'm gonna put some tunes on and I'll start the video back up here. Okay, folks, so that's pretty much the process of metalizing the B29 segment with the scuffed chrome vinyl. I pulled all the tape off of everything, and then what I did is I just took the felt end of that hard card and I just went over all of the seams, especially where the tape was, to make sure they were stuck really good. Occasionally the masking tape will actually pull up a little bit of the vinyl, and you just gotta scuff it back down on there or rub it back down onto the surface and it'll stay. So next up for the front here, what I'll do is I will remove the piece of tape here on both sides, and I will put it on top of the vinyl part. That gives you a double thickness, so it gives you a nice defined edge. I'll do that all the way around everywhere that already has vinyl, and basically do just outline the unvinyled part for now. And then I'll take rough measurements here down and I'll cut a bunch of panels. I'll figure out what I want to do as far as panel alignment, grain alignment would be, which you can actually do now. Really, I mean, this is just something that there's no right or wrong answer to it. You just kind of figure it out. This one's horizontal, this one's vertical, this one's angled, and then this one is vertical. So angled and vertical there. So I'm gonna do a horizontal one here. I'm gonna do an angled one here. I'm gonna do a vertical one here, and then a horizontal one here. And then on the other side, there's not a whole lot of data or pictures that I have found that show how the whole, we'll call it the birdcage area, is done. So I'm just going to kind of make it up as I go. So since I have a horizontal one up here on the other side, when it comes to this one, I don't want a horizontal. I got a horizontal here anyway, so that'll be a little bit of overlap between those two, which I'm fine with. This is a vertical, that's a horizontal, so this one has to be an angled. And then this is a vertical, this is horizontal. So this one could be, oh, let's see. I got it angled on the bottom, so let's do a vertical one down here at the bottom. So we can't have a vertical here. So this one has to be horizontal. And then this one can be, well, that's horizontal, so this one has to be angled. And this one can be horizontal. There we go. That'll be good enough for now. So I'm going to call this one a wrap, and we'll start up another video here once we get around to doing all of this. I'll probably focus on the next video mostly just the birdcage area. The bottom down here it's all the same thing. So till next time, y'all have a good one.